My name is Ivy Harper, and I'm 67 years old. Yesterday afternoon, my husband Raymond hit me across the face with the back of his hand, then walked away smiling. Not a nervous smile, not an apologetic smile, a satisfied smile, like he'd finally done something he'd been wanting to do for a long time and was pleased with himself. I stood there in my kitchen, my cheek stinging, tasting blood in my mouth where my lip had split against my teeth, watching my husband of 45 years walk away like he'd just swatted a fly. Raymond didn't apologize, didn't check if I was okay, didn't show any remorse. He just smiled and walked to his recliner, turned on the TV, and watched his show like nothing had happened. I touched my face gingerly. My cheek was already swelling. My lip was bleeding, but the physical pain wasn't what hurt most. What hurt was the smile. That smile told me everything I needed to know. Raymond didn't feel bad about hitting me. He felt good, powerful, in control. And he thought he'd gotten away with it. But Raymond was wrong. Because the next day, today, I walked into court with a folder full of evidence and a lawyer by my side. And what I unleashed in that courtroom would destroy the carefully constructed life Raymond thought was secure. But to understand why that single smile led me to take such drastic action, why I was willing to blow up 45 years of marriage over one hit, I need to take you back. Back to the beginning. Back to when Raymond and I first met, and I was a young woman who thought love meant sacrifice. I met Raymond Harper in 1980 when I was 22 years old. He was 25, working as an auto mechanic, charming and confident. "You're the prettiest girl I've ever seen," Raymond told me on our first date. "I'm going to marry you someday." I laughed, flattered by his confidence. "You don't even know me yet." "I know enough," Raymond said with that smile, the same smile that would later appear after he hit me, though I didn't know that then. We dated for a year. Raymond was attentive and romantic. He brought me flowers. He took me to nice dinners. He told me constantly how lucky he was to have me. "You're special, Ivy," Raymond would say. "Most women are difficult, but you're easy to be with. You don't nag or complain." At the time, I thought he was complimenting me. Now I realize he was training me, praising me for being agreeable, for not having opinions that contradicted his, for not standing up for myself. We got married in 1981. I was 23, Raymond was 26. I wore a simple white dress from a department store because we couldn't afford anything fancy. Raymond wore a borrowed suit. "We'll have a better life someday," Raymond promised. "I'm going to work hard and give you everything you deserve." And he did work hard. Raymond was a good mechanic. He eventually opened his own auto repair shop when I was 25. The shop did well, and our financial situation improved. We bought a small house. Nothing fancy, but it was ours. I worked too, as a secretary at a law firm, making modest money that helped with bills. "You don't need to work," Raymond would say. "I make enough." "I like working," I'd reply. "It gives me something to do." "You should be home," Raymond would insist. "Taking care of the house, that's what wives do." But I kept working, one of the few times I went against Raymond's wishes in those early years. The first signs of Raymond's controlling nature appeared slowly, so gradually I didn't recognize them as warning signs. When I was 26, I wanted to take a weekend trip to visit my college friend who'd moved to another state. "I don't think that's a good idea," Raymond said. "Why not?" I asked. "It's just a weekend." "Because I need you here," Raymond said. "What if something happens at the shop and I need help with paperwork?" "You can manage for 2 days," I pointed out. "Ivy, I'm asking you not to go," Raymond said, his tone shifting from requesting to demanding. "A wife should put her husband first." I ended up not going. I told myself Raymond needed me, that it was considerate to stay. But really, I'd been manipulated into choosing his comfort over my own desires. When I was 28, I wanted to take an evening class in accounting to improve my job skills. "Evening class," Raymond said. "When would you make dinner?" "I'd make dinner before class," I explained. "The class is only 2 nights a week for 3 months." That's 2 nights a week I'd have to eat reheated food or fend for myself, Raymond complained. That's not fair to me. Raymond, it's just temporary, I said, and it would help me get a better position at work. You don't need a better position, Raymond interrupted. You make enough. This is about you wanting to do your own thing instead of being here for your husband. Again, I gave in. I didn't take the class. Looking back, I can see the pattern. Raymond framed every request I made as selfish. Every boundary I tried to set as being a bad wife. Every desire for independence as a betrayal. And I believed him. I thought being a good wife meant sacrificing my wants for his needs. For 30 years, I compromised. Small things, mostly. Things that seemed insignificant at the time. I stopped seeing friends Raymond didn't like. She's a bad influence, he'd say, or she doesn't respect marriage. I stopped pursuing hobbies Raymond found inconvenient. You spend too much time on that, he'd complain. I stopped expressing opinions that contradicted Raymond's. You don't know what you're talking about, he'd dismiss. I learned to be agreeable, quiet, accommodating. Not because I wanted to be that way, but because disagreeing with Raymond led to days of silent treatment, passive-aggressive comments, or long lectures about how I didn't appreciate him. It was easier to just go along. Happy wife, happy life, people say. But in my marriage, it was agreeable wife, peaceful life. Raymond controlled our finances. He decided where we went on vacation. He chose our cars, our furniture, how we spent our weekends. I'm just trying to make our life easier, Raymond would explain when I occasionally questioned his decisions. You shouldn't have to worry about these things. But what he was really doing was making sure I had no power in our relationship. When I was 52 and Raymond was 55, he decided to sell his auto shop and retire early. We have enough money, Raymond announced. I'm tired of working. I'm going to sell the shop. What about me? I asked. I'm not ready to retire. You should retire too, Raymond said. We can spend time together, travel, enjoy life. I like my job, I said. I'd been working at the same law firm for 30 years, had become the office manager, enjoyed the work and the people. You like your job more than spending time with your husband? Raymond asked, making it sound like a betrayal. That's not what I said, I protested. I just don't want to retire yet. Ivy, I'm retiring, Raymond said firmly. And I expect my wife to retire with me. That's what married couples do. The pressure was enormous. Raymond made me feel selfish for wanting to keep working. He complained constantly about being home alone. He made comments about me choosing work over him. Eventually, I gave in. At 52, I retired from a job I loved to keep my husband happy. And that's when things got worse. Once we were both retired, Raymond's control intensified. With me home all day, he expected me to cater to him constantly. Ivy, make me lunch. Ivy, where's my coffee? Ivy, why isn't the house cleaner? I went from being a working professional to being Raymond's personal servant. I tried to maintain some independence. I joined a book club at the library. You don't need a book club, Raymond complained. You have books here, read at home. I enjoy discussing books with other people, I explained. What you enjoy is gossiping with those women, Raymond said. Probably talking about your husband, making me look bad. That's not what we do, I protested. I don't want you going anymore, Raymond said. It's disrespectful to me. I kept going anyway, one of the few times I stood my ground. Raymond punished me with weeks of cold silence and passive-aggressive comments. But I endured it because the book club was my one connection to the outside world. In the past 5 years, as Raymond got older, he's now 70, his controlling behavior escalated. He started tracking my movements. Where were you? He'd demand if I was gone longer than expected. At the grocery store, I'd explain. For 2 hours, Raymond would challenge. What were you really doing? Shopping takes time, I'd say. You're lying, Raymond would accuse. You were probably meeting someone, having an affair. The accusations were absurd. I was 67 years old, had never even looked at another man, had been faithful for 45 years. But Raymond's jealousy and paranoia grew. He started checking my phone. "Who's this text from?" he'd demand. "My friend from book club," I'd say. "What are you texting her about?" Raymond would interrogate. "Just book club stuff," I'd explain. "Let me read it," Raymond would insist. If I hesitated, Raymond would explode. "See, you're hiding something, you're lying to me." I started feeling like a prisoner in my own home. 6 months ago, I made a disturbing discovery. I was looking for our tax documents and found bank statements Raymond had hidden. We'd always kept our finances separate. I had my retirement account from my years working. Raymond had his from selling his shop and his own retirement savings. But the statements I found showed something shocking. Raymond had been transferring money from my retirement account into his own account. Thousands of dollars over the past 3 years. "Raymond, what is this?" I confronted him, holding the statements. His face went red. "Where did you get those?" "In your filing cabinet," I said. "Raymond, you've been taking money from my account without my permission. That's theft." "It's not theft," Raymond said defensively. "We're married, what's yours is mine." "Not legally," I said. "These are separate accounts. You need my permission to access my money." "I needed the money," Raymond said. "For what?" I demanded. "That's none of your business," Raymond snapped. "It is my business," I said, my voice rising. "It's MY money." "Don't you dare raise your voice to me," Raymond warned, stepping closer. I felt afraid suddenly. In 45 years of marriage, Raymond had never been physically violent, but the look in his eyes scared me. "I'm just asking what you spent my money on," I said more quietly. "And I told you it's none of your business," Raymond said. "A wife should trust her husband." "A husband shouldn't steal from his wife," I countered. Raymond grabbed my wrist tightly. "Stop calling it stealing. It's our money, and if you can't understand that, maybe you're not as smart as you think you are." He squeezed hard enough to hurt, then released me and walked away. I stood there rubbing my wrist, shaken. That was the first physical aggression. But it wouldn't be the last. After discovering the theft, I tried to protect my finances. I changed my account passwords. I contacted the bank to ensure Raymond couldn't make withdrawals without my authorization. Raymond was furious when he discovered what I'd done. "You're cutting me off from money," Raymond raged. "I'm protecting MY money that you were taking without permission," I said. "This is what I get for 45 years of marriage," Raymond said bitterly. "A wife who doesn't trust me." "You gave me reasons not to trust you," I pointed out. Raymond didn't speak to me for 2 weeks. Complete silent treatment. When he finally started talking again, it was with barely contained hostility. Every interaction became tense. Every conversation could explode into an argument. I felt like I was walking on eggshells constantly. Yesterday started like any other day. I made breakfast. Raymond ate in silence, reading his newspaper. After breakfast, I mentioned I was going to book club that evening. "No, you're not," Raymond said. "Yes, I am," I said. "It's Thursday. I always go to book club on Thursday." "Not anymore," Raymond said. "I've decided you spend too much time with those women. You're staying home from now on." "Raymond, you can't decide that," I said. "Book club is important to me." "And I'm not important to you," Raymond challenged. "That's not what I said," I replied, trying to stay calm. "You're choosing strangers over your husband," Raymond said. "They're my friends, not strangers," I corrected. "And I'm not choosing them over you. I'm allowed to have friends." "No," Raymond said simply. "You're not going." "Yes," I said firmly, surprising myself with my own boldness. "I am." I stood up and started clearing dishes. That's when Raymond stood up, walked over to me and hit me. The back of his hand across my face, hard enough to snap my head to the side, hard enough to split my lip, hard enough to make my cheek immediately start swelling. I stood there frozen, shocked, my hand going to my burning face. And Raymond, he smiled. Not an apologetic smile, Not a shocked, "I can't believe I just did that" smile. A satisfied smile. Like he'd finally put me in my place and was pleased with himself. Then he walked to his recliner, sat down, turned on the TV, and started watching his show. I stood in the kitchen for what felt like forever, my face throbbing, blood on my lip, tears streaming down my cheeks. And in that moment, I made a decision. I wasn't going to accept this. I wasn't going to pretend it didn't happen. I wasn't going to make excuses for Raymond. I walked to the bathroom and took photos of my face. The swelling, the split lip, the red handprint forming on my cheek. Then I went to my computer and gathered evidence. Bank statements showing the theft, emails where I'd asked Raymond about the money, records of his controlling behavior that I'd documented over the years. I'd been keeping records for months without really knowing why. Some instinct told me I might need proof someday. Today was that day. This morning, I called a lawyer, Minnie Foster, who I knew from my years working at the law firm. "Minnie, I need help," I said. "My husband hit me yesterday, and I want to file for divorce and press charges." "Come to my office immediately," Minnie said, "and bring any evidence you have." Now I was sitting in Minnie's office, my face still swollen, showing her the photos, the bank statements, the documentation. "Ivy, this is assault and financial abuse," Minnie said. "We can file for a restraining order today, and we can file criminal charges for the assault and civil charges for the theft." "Will it work?" I asked. "Raymond will deny everything." "You have photos taken immediately after the assault," Minnie said. "You have bank records showing unauthorized transfers. This is strong evidence." "What happens now?" I asked. "Now," Minnie said with a determined look, "we walk into court and reclaim your peace." Before I continue, kindly subscribe now. Hit that like button and turn on NOTIFICTONS. Drop a comment. Should Ivy press charges? What would you do in her situation? Where are you watching from? United States, Canada, United Kingdom, Jamaica, Australia? Let me know. I sat in the courthouse waiting room, my hands shaking as I held a folder containing evidence of 45 years of control, manipulation, theft, and yesterday's assault. My lawyer, Minnie Foster, sat beside me, reviewing documents one final time. "Are you ready?" Minnie asked gently. I touched my swollen cheek, still tender, still bruised a deep purple. "I'm ready." "Good," Minnie said. "Remember, Ivy, you're not destroying your marriage. Raymond destroyed it when he hit you. You're just making it official and protecting yourself." We stood and walked toward the courtroom where we'd file for an emergency restraining order. Raymond had no idea this was happening. He thought I was at the grocery store. He was probably sitting in his recliner right now, watching TV, confident that his smile yesterday had intimidated me into silence. He was wrong. Judge Rufus Price presided over the emergency restraining order hearing. He was an older black man with gray hair and a serious expression. "Mrs. Harper, you're requesting an emergency restraining order against your husband Raymond Harper," Judge Price asked. "Yes, Your Honor," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "On what grounds?" the judge asked. "Assault and domestic violence," Minnie answered for me. "Yesterday afternoon, Mr. Harper struck Mrs. Harper across the face with enough force to split her lip and cause significant facial bruising." "Do you have evidence of this assault?" Judge Price asked. Minnie handed the judge printed photos of my face taken yesterday. The swelling, the split lip, the clear handprint mark on my cheek. Judge Price studied the photos, his expression growing stern. "These photos were taken when?" "Approximately 10 minutes after the assault," I said. "I took them myself in my bathroom." "Mrs. Harper, can you describe what happened?" Judge Price asked. I took a deep breath and told the story. The argument about book club, Raymond saying I couldn't go, me standing up for myself, Raymond hitting me and walking away smiling. "He smiled," Judge Price repeated, looking disturbed. "Yes, Your Honor," I confirmed. Not apologetically, not shocked at what he'd done, a satisfied smile, like he was pleased with himself for putting me in my place. Has your husband been physically violent before this incident? Judge Price asked. 6 months ago, he grabbed my wrist hard enough to bruise it, I said. But yesterday was the first time he actually struck me. And you're seeking an order requiring Mr. Harper to stay away from you, Judge Price clarified. Yes, Your Honor, I said, and to vacate our shared residence. I'm also filing for divorce and pressing criminal charges for assault. Judge Price reviewed the evidence again. Based on the photographic evidence and Mrs. Harper's testimony, I'm granting an emergency restraining order. Mr. Harper must stay at least 500 feet away from Mrs. Harper at all times. He is prohibited from contacting her by phone, email, text, or through third parties. Additionally, Judge Price continued, Mr. Harper must vacate the marital residence within 24 hours. Mrs. Harper will be allowed to return home with police escort to ensure her safety while Mr. Harper removes his essential belongings. A full hearing will be scheduled for 2 weeks from today. Thank you, Your Honor, I said, tears of relief forming. Mrs. Harper, Judge Price said, looking at me directly, domestic violence is serious. The fact that this occurred after 45 years of marriage doesn't make it less serious. You did the right thing by seeking protection. 2 hours after the hearing, 2 police officers, Officers Curtis Brown and Letty James, accompanied me to my house to serve Raymond with the restraining order and supervise his removal. As we pulled up to my house, I felt my stomach tighten with anxiety. Raymond was going to be furious. Officer Brown rang the doorbell. I stood behind the officers, my heart pounding. Raymond opened the door, looking annoyed. "What's this about?" he demanded when he saw the police. "Mr. Raymond Harper," Officer Brown asked. "Yes," Raymond said suspiciously, his eyes landing on me behind the officers. "Ivy, what's going on?" "Mr. Harper, I'm serving you with an emergency restraining order," Officer Brown said, handing Raymond the papers. Raymond's face went from confused to shocked to furious in seconds. "A restraining order? Ivy, what the hell is this?" "You need to step back, Mr. Harper," Officer Brown said firmly. "Read the order. You're required to vacate this residence within 24 hours and stay at least 500 feet away from Mrs. Harper at all times." "This is MY house," Raymond shouted, his face turning red. "She can't kick me out of my own house." "Actually, according to property records, this house is jointly owned," Officer James said. "The judge has temporarily awarded exclusive use to Mrs. Harper due to the assault." "Assault," Raymond said, looking at me with fake confusion. "Ivy, what did you tell them? Did you make up some story because you're upset?" I didn't respond. I just looked at him, my face still visibly bruised. "Mr. Harper, we're not here to debate the facts," Officer Brown said. "The judge has issued this order. You need to comply. You have 1 hour to pack essential belongings. Then you must leave." "I'm not going anywhere," Raymond said defiantly. "Sir, if you refuse to comply, we'll arrest you for violating a court order," Officer Brown said calmly but firmly. "Is that what you want?" Raymond looked between the officers, me, and the restraining order papers, clearly trying to decide if he could intimidate his way out of this. "This is ridiculous," Raymond finally said. "Fine, I'll pack some things, but this isn't over, Ivy. You're making a huge mistake." "No," I said quietly but firmly. "You made the mistake when you hit me and smiled about it." For the next hour, I watched as Raymond packed suitcases with clothes, toiletries, and personal items. The police officers supervised to make sure Raymond didn't take anything that wasn't clearly his personal property. Raymond kept trying to talk to me, to explain, to manipulate. "Ivy, we can work this out," Raymond said. "You don't need to do this. We've been married 45 years. Don't you think that means something?" "It meant something until you hit me," I said. "I didn't mean to hurt you," Raymond claimed. "I was frustrated. You were being difficult." "Stop," I interrupted. "Don't blame me for you hitting me. You chose to do that. And then you smiled about it. That smile told me everything I needed to know." "You're overreacting," Raymond tried. "Couples fight sometimes. This isn't worth destroying our marriage over." You destroyed our marriage when you hit me, I said, repeating Minnie's words from earlier. Raymond's manipulation wasn't working, so he switched to threats. Fine, Raymond said coldly. But when this goes to court, everyone will know what kind of wife you were, how you disrespected me, how you cut me off from money, how you chose strangers at book club over your husband. Tell them, I said. Tell them how I worked for 30 years and had my own retirement money that you stole. Tell them how you controlled every aspect of my life. Tell them how you hit me when I tried to go to book club. Let's see who the judge believes. Raymond's face darkened. He wasn't used to me standing up to him. After an hour, Raymond had 3 suitcases packed. You need to leave now, Mr. Harper, Officer Brown said. Where am I supposed to go? Raymond demanded. That's not our concern, Officer James said. You could stay with family, friends, or get a hotel, but you can't stay here and you can't contact Mrs. Harper. Raymond looked at me one last time. You're going to regret this. No, I said. I regret staying with you as long as I did, but I'll never regret protecting myself from you. Raymond grabbed his suitcases and left, slamming the door behind him so hard a picture fell off the wall. And just like that, after 45 years of marriage, my house was mine again. That first night alone in my house was strange. I kept expecting to hear Raymond's voice demanding something, kept waiting for his heavy footsteps, kept anticipating his presence. But there was only silence. I walked through my house and noticed things I hadn't noticed in years. How much space there was without Raymond's clutter. How peaceful the living room felt without his constant TV watching. I made dinner just for myself, whatever I wanted. I didn't have to consider Raymond's preferences or complaints. I ate in the living room, something Raymond never allowed because he said it was messy. I watched what I wanted on TV, a documentary about art instead of Raymond's endless sports channels. And for the first time in 45 years, I went to bed without feeling anxious about tomorrow. The next morning, I went to the police station with Minnie to file criminal charges against Raymond for assault. Detective Floyd Washington took my statement. Mrs. Harper, walk me through what happened the day of the assault, Detective Washington said. I told him everything. The argument, Raymond hitting me, the smile, his complete lack of remorse. And you took photos immediately after, Detective Washington confirmed. Yes, I said, within 10 minutes. That's good, Detective Washington said. That establishes that the injuries are fresh and directly connected to the incident you're reporting. Will you arrest him? I asked. Based on your statement, the photographic evidence, and the restraining order, yes, we'll be issuing a warrant for Mr. Harper's arrest on charges of domestic violence assault, Detective Washington confirmed. What happens then? I asked. He'll be arrested, booked, and held pending arraignment, Detective Washington explained. At arraignment, the judge will set bail. He'll either post bail or remain in custody until trial. And the trial, I asked. Could be several months away, Detective Washington said. But Mrs. Harper, I want you to know you did the right thing by coming forward. Domestic violence doesn't get better on its own. It escalates. By pressing charges, you're protecting yourself and holding him accountable. 2 days after Raymond left, he started calling me from different phone numbers. The restraining order prohibited him from contacting me, but Raymond didn't care. I didn't answer the calls, but I listened to the voicemails he left. Ivy, this is ridiculous. Call me so we can talk like adults. Ivy, you're being manipulated by that lawyer. She's just trying to make money off our problems. Ivy, I've been arrested. They're charging me with assault. This is your fault. You're destroying my life. Ivy, please. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have hit you. But you have to understand you pushed me to it. Just drop the charges and we can work this out. Each voicemail showed Raymond's true nature. First trying to manipulate, then blame shifting, then fake apologizing while still blaming me. I saved all the voicemails and forwarded them to Minnie and Detective Washington as evidence of Raymond violating the restraining order. 3 days after I filed charges, Detective Washington called me. Mrs. Harper, I wanted to let you know we've arrested Mr. Harper, Detective Washington said. Where was he? I asked. Staying at a motel, Detective Washington said. He didn't resist arrest, but he was very vocal about his innocence. Kept saying you were lying, that he barely touched you, that you're doing this for money. I'm not doing this for money, I said quietly. I'm doing this because he hit me and smiled about it. I know, Detective Washington said. His arraignment is tomorrow morning. You don't have to attend, but you're welcome to if you want. I'll be there, I decided. The next morning, I sat in the courtroom for Raymond's arraignment, Minnie beside me. Raymond was brought in wearing an orange jail jumpsuit, hands cuffed in front of him. When he saw me, his expression darkened with rage. The judge, Judge Viola Mitchell, reviewed the charges. Mr. Harper, you're charged with domestic violence assault in the 3rd degree, Judge Mitchell read. How do you plead? Not guilty, Raymond said firmly. This is all a misunderstanding, Your Honor. My wife is exaggerating a minor incident because she's upset about other marital issues. Mr. Harper, this isn't the time for explanations, Judge Mitchell said. We're here to enter your plea and set bail. You'll have opportunity to present your defense at trial. But Your Honor, this is destroying my life, Raymond protested. I've been married to this woman for 45 years. One argument shouldn't result in me being arrested and kicked out of my home. Mr. Harper, the evidence includes photographs of significant facial injuries to the alleged victim, Judge Mitchell said sternly. This isn't one argument. This is alleged assault. And if you violated the restraining order by contacting the victim, which I see from the prosecutor's filing you did multiple times, that's additional criminal behavior. I was just trying to talk to my wife, Raymond said. Your wife has a restraining order against you, Judge Mitchell said. That means no contact. Bail is set at $5,000. You're also ordered to have no contact with the victim. If you violate the restraining order again, bail will be revoked and you'll be held until trial. Raymond couldn't afford the $5,000 bail immediately, which meant he'd stay in jail at least a few days. As bailiffs led him away, Raymond stared at me with pure hatred. I met his gaze calmly. I wasn't afraid anymore. A week after Raymond's arrest, I started going through our financial documents more thoroughly. What I discovered made me sick. Raymond hadn't just stolen thousands from my retirement account. He'd taken out credit cards in my name, forging my signature, and run up over $30,000 in debt. He'd also taken out a home equity loan against our house again, forging my signature, for $50,000. All told, Raymond had stolen or fraudulently acquired over $80,000 using my name and credit. How did I not know about this? I asked Minnie, showing her the evidence. Because Raymond controlled the finances, Minnie explained. He probably intercepted mail, managed all the bills, kept you in the dark. This is classic financial abuse. Can we charge him for this too? I asked. Absolutely, Minnie said. This is identity theft and fraud, federal crimes. I'll contact the prosecutor and add these charges to the criminal case. He destroyed my credit, I said, looking at my credit report for the first time in years. My score has dropped 200 points because of debt I didn't even know existed. We'll fix it, Minnie assured me. We'll file police reports for the identity theft. We'll dispute the fraudulent accounts. And we'll include financial restitution in the divorce settlement. 2 weeks after the emergency restraining order was issued, we had the full hearing to determine if it should be extended. This time, Raymond had a lawyer, a public defender named Grover Hayes. Grover argued that the restraining order was unnecessary, that Raymond posed no danger, that this was a marital dispute being blown out of proportion. But Minnie presented overwhelming evidence. Photos of my bruised face. Medical records from the doctor I'd finally seen who documented the injuries. Bank statements showing the theft. Credit card statements showing the fraud. Transcripts of Raymond's voicemail messages violating the restraining order. My testimony, about 45 years of controlling behavior. Judge Price reviewed all the evidence carefully. "Mr. Harper, do you deny striking your wife?" Judge Price asked. I may have touched her," Raymond admitted carefully. "But not hard. She's exaggerating the injuries." "Mr. Harper, I'm looking at photos of significant facial bruising and a split lip," Judge Price said. "How do you explain that?" "She bruises easily," Raymond claimed. "And she could have made the injuries worse herself to make me look bad." "Are you seriously suggesting your wife of 45 years injured herself to frame you?" Judge Price asked incredulously. "I'm saying she's upset about other things and using this incident to punish me," Raymond said. "What other things?" Judge Price asked. "I may have used some money from her account without asking," Raymond admitted. "But we're married. What's hers is mine." "Not legally, Mr. Harper," Judge Price said. "You took money without authorization. That's theft. And according to the evidence, you also committed identity theft and fraud by opening accounts in her name." "That's just misunderstanding," Raymond protested. Judge Price wasn't buying it. "Based on the evidence presented, photographic proof of assault, documented financial abuse, and Mr. Harper's own admission to using his wife's money without permission, I'm extending the restraining order for 1 year," Judge Price ruled. "Mr. Harper must maintain 500 feet distance from Mrs. Harper at all times, have no contact with her, and stay away from the marital residence. Violation of this order will result in immediate arrest." Raymond's face turned red with rage, but he said nothing. Before I continue, kindly subscribe now, smash that like button, and turn on notifications. Drop a comment. Should Raymond go to prison? Would you have pressed charges? Where are you watching from? 3 months after Raymond's arrest, I sat in the courtroom waiting for his criminal trial to begin. In those 3 months, my life had transformed completely. I was living alone in my house, peacefully, quietly, without fear. I'd rejoined my book club without asking permission. I'd reconnected with old friends. I'd even started painting again, a hobby I'd abandoned 30 years ago because Raymond said it was a waste of time. But today wasn't about my newfound freedom. Today was about justice. Raymond sat at the defendant's table with his lawyer, Grover Hayes. He looked older, thinner, defeated. 3 months in jail awaiting trial had clearly taken a toll. When Raymond's eyes met mine, I saw not the satisfied smile from that terrible day, but desperation and rage. Good, I thought. Let him feel desperate. Let him feel what I felt for 45 years. The prosecutor, District Attorney Geneva Porter, was a sharp woman in her 50s who specialized in domestic violence cases. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury," DA Porter began, "this case is about power and control. For 45 years, Raymond Harper controlled every aspect of his wife Ivy's life. He controlled where she went, who she saw, how she spent her time. He controlled their finances, not just his money, but hers too. And when Mrs. Harper finally stood up to him, when she said no to his unreasonable demand that she skip her weekly book club, Mr. Harper did what abusers do when they lose control. He used violence." DA Porter clicked a remote, and photos of my bruised face appeared on the screen. The swollen cheek, the split lip, the clear handprint mark. I heard gasps from the jury. The photos were shocking, even to me, seeing them enlarged on the screen. "These injuries were inflicted by Mr. Harper's hand," DA Porter continued. "And after inflicting these injuries, Mr. Harper didn't apologize, didn't show remorse, didn't check if his wife was okay. Instead, he smiled, a satisfied smile, and walked away to watch TV. That smile," DA Porter said, "tells you everything you need to know about Mr. Harper's state of mind. He wasn't sorry. He was pleased. He'd finally put his wife in her place." DA Porter spent the next hour laying out the evidence. The photos, the medical records, the testimony from the doctor who'd examined me, the police reports. Then she called me to the stand. "Mrs. Harper, can you describe the day of the assault?" DA Porter asked. I took a deep breath and told the story, how I'd mentioned going to book club, how Raymond forbid me, how I stood up for myself for once. How Raymond hit me. And after he hit you, what did Mr. Harper do? D.A. Porter asked. He smiled, I said, my voice steady. A satisfied smile, like he was pleased with himself. Then he walked to his recliner and turned on the TV like nothing had happened. Did he apologize? D.A. Porter asked. No, I said. He didn't say a single word, just smiled and walked away. How did that make you feel? D.A. Porter asked. Terrified, I admitted. Not just because of the physical pain, but because of what that smile meant. It meant he felt entitled to hit me. It meant he had no remorse. It meant if I stayed, it would happen again. Mrs. Harper, had your husband been physically violent before this incident? D.A. Porter asked. 6 months earlier, he grabbed my wrist hard enough to bruise it, I said. And he'd been emotionally and financially abusive throughout our marriage. Can you explain what you mean by financially abusive? D.A. Porter asked. I explained about Raymond stealing from my retirement account, the credit cards opened in my name, the home equity loan I knew nothing about. How much money did Mr. Harper steal or fraudulently acquire in your name? D.A. Porter asked. Over $80,000, I said. More gasps from the jury. And did you give him permission to access your accounts or open credit in your name? D.A. Porter asked. Absolutely not, I said firmly. I didn't even know about most of it until after he was arrested. Then it was Grover Hayes' turn to question me. Mrs. Harper, you claim my client hit you, Grover began. But isn't it true that you and Mr. Harper were arguing before this alleged incident? We were having a disagreement, I confirmed. I told him I was going to book club. He said I couldn't. I said I could. That's when he hit me. So you were defying your husband? Grover asked. Objection. D.A. Porter stood up. Counsel is implying that the victim deserved to be hit for disagreeing with her husband. Sustained, Judge Thaddeus Walsh said firmly. Mr. Hayes, rephrase your question. Let me ask this, Grover continued. You admit you were going against your husband's wishes. I was making my own decision about my own time, I said, which I'm allowed to do as an adult. But in 45 years of marriage, didn't you usually defer to your husband's preferences? Grover asked. Yes, I admitted. Because if I didn't, he would punish me with silent treatment, passive-aggressive behavior, or, as I now know, violence. You claim Mr. Harper stole $80,000 from you, Grover said, changing tactics. But you're married. Doesn't married couples share finances? We kept separate accounts, I explained. My retirement money was mine. I earned it working for 30 years. Raymond had no legal right to take it without my permission. But he was your husband, Grover pressed. Didn't he have a right to access marital assets? Not my individual retirement account, I said. Not legally. What he did was theft and fraud. Grover tried several more times to poke holes in my testimony, but I remained calm and consistent. Finally, he asked, Mrs. Harper, is it possible you're exaggerating the severity of this incident because you want a favorable divorce settlement? No, I said firmly. I'm telling the truth because my husband hit me, smiled about it, and I want him held accountable. Then Raymond took the stand in his own defense. Grover walked him through his version of events, predictably, a story where he was the victim and I was the villain. Mr. Harper, can you describe what happened the day of the alleged incident? Grover asked. Ivy and I had a disagreement, Raymond said, his voice carefully modulated to sound reasonable. She wanted to go to this book club that I felt was taking up too much of her time. We'd been arguing about it for weeks. What happened during this disagreement? Grover asked. Ivy got very emotional, Raymond claimed. She was yelling at me, saying I was controlling. I tried to calm her down. I may have reached out to touch her shoulder. You may have, D.A. Porter interrupted. Either you touched her or you didn't, Mr. Harper. Objection, Grover said. The witness is still answering my question. Overruled, Judge Walsh said. The prosecutor's question is valid. Mr. Harper, did you touch your wife or not? I put my hand on her face, Raymond admitted, but gently, just to get her attention. You put your hand on her face, DA Porter repeated. Is that how you describe backhanding someone hard enough to split their lip and leave a handprint bruise on their cheek? I didn't hit her that hard, Raymond protested. She bruises easily. She's exaggerating to make me look bad. Mr. Harper, are you seriously claiming your wife injured herself to frame you? Judge Walsh asked, his tone skeptical. I'm saying she made it worse than it was, Raymond insisted. Maybe she fell after I touched her. Maybe she bumped into something, but I didn't cause all those injuries. So the split lip, DA Porter asked. I don't know how she got that, Raymond claimed. The handprint-shaped bruise on her cheek that matches your hand size, DA Porter pressed. Could be a coincidence, Raymond said weakly. And the photos she took 10 minutes after the incident showing fresh injuries, DA Porter continued. I don't know, Raymond said, his calm facade cracking. Maybe she did it herself. Mr. Harper, you expect this jury to believe your 67-year-old wife injured herself severely enough to require medical attention, all to frame you? DA Porter asked incredulously. She wanted an excuse to divorce me and take my money, Raymond burst out. Your money, DA Porter repeated. Mr. Harper, isn't it true that you stole over $80,000 from your wife's accounts? That wasn't stealing, Raymond insisted. We're married, what's hers is mine. Not legally, DA Porter said. You took money from her individual retirement account without authorization. You opened credit cards in her name by forging her signature. You took out a home equity loan by forging her signature. That's not sharing marital assets. That's identity theft and fraud. I needed the money, Raymond said desperately. For what? DA Porter asked. Raymond hesitated, realizing he'd walked into a trap. For expenses. What expenses? DA Porter pressed. Just living expenses, Raymond said vaguely. Mr. Harper, you had your own retirement money from selling your auto shop, DA Porter pointed out. Why did you need to steal your wife's money if you had your own? I'm not on trial for that, Raymond protested. Actually, you are, DA Porter said. You're facing charges for both assault and financial crimes. So I'll ask again, why did you steal your wife's money? I didn't steal, Raymond shouted. She's my wife, I had a right to that money. No, you didn't, DA Porter said firmly. And when she discovered your theft and tried to protect her finances, you became violent, because you'd lost control. And control is what this has always been about, isn't it? Objection, Grover said, argumentative. Withdrawn, DA Porter said with a slight smile. She'd made her point. DA Porter then presented the financial evidence. Bank statements, credit card applications with forged signatures, the home equity loan documents. She called a handwriting expert who testified that the signatures on the fraudulent documents didn't match my signature, but did appear to be written by Raymond. She called my bank representative, who testified about the unauthorized transfers from my account. The evidence was overwhelming. Raymond had systematically stolen from me for years. After 3 days of testimony, the case went to the jury. I sat in the courthouse waiting room, Minnie beside me, my hands shaking with nervous energy. How long do you think they'll deliberate? I asked. Hard to say, Minnie said. Could be hours, could be days. It was 3 hours. The jury came back with a verdict after just 3 hours of deliberation. That was a good sign, Minnie said. Quick verdicts usually mean the evidence was clear. We filed back into the courtroom. Raymond was brought in, looking pale and anxious. Has the jury reached a verdict? Judge Walsh asked. We have, Your Honor, the jury foreman said, standing. On the charge of domestic violence assault in the 3rd degree, how do you find? Judge Walsh asked. Guilty, the foreman said. I felt tears of relief forming. On the charge of identity theft, how do you find? Judge Walsh continued. Guilty. On the charge of fraud, how do you find? Guilty. On the charge of forgery, how do you find? Guilty. Guilty on all counts. Raymond's face went white. He looked at me with an expression of shock and betrayal, as if he couldn't believe I'd actually followed through with having him convicted. But I met his gaze steadily. No more looking down, no more backing down, no more accepting abuse. "Mr. Harper, you've been found guilty on all charges," Judge Walsh said. "Sentencing will be scheduled for 2 weeks from today. Until then, you'll remain in custody. Bail is revoked." As bailiffs led Raymond away, he tried one last time. "Ivy, please, you can't do this. I'm your husband." "You were my husband," I corrected quietly. "You stopped being my husband when you hit me and smiled about it." The sentencing hearing was shorter but more emotional than the trial. DA Porter argued for significant prison time. "Your Honor, Mr. Harper showed no remorse for his actions," DA Porter said. "Even during trial, he continued to blame the victim, to claim she injured herself, to justify his theft as his right as a husband. This man is a danger to Mrs. Harper and shows no indication of rehabilitation." Grover argued for leniency. "Your Honor, Mr. Harper is 70 years old," Grover said. "He has no prior criminal record. He's been married to the victim for 45 years. A lengthy prison sentence would essentially be a life sentence for a man his age." Then Judge Walsh asked if I wanted to make a victim impact statement. I did. I stood at the podium and looked at Raymond, sitting in his orange jumpsuit, and I spoke truth. "For 45 years, I was your wife," I said. "I worked, I sacrificed. I put your needs first always. I gave up friends you didn't like, hobbies you found inconvenient, opportunities you considered threatening. I made myself small so you could feel big. And when I finally stood up for myself, when I said I was going to book club despite your objection, you hit me," I continued. "You hit me hard enough to split my lip and bruise my face, and then you smiled." "That smile told me everything," I said, my voice breaking. "It told me you felt entitled to hurt me, that you had no remorse, that you were pleased with yourself for putting me back in my place." "But you didn't put me in my place," I said firmly. "You freed me, because that smile made me realize I deserved better, that I deserved peace, that I deserved to live without fear." "You stole $80,000 from me," I continued. "You forged my signature, you destroyed my credit, you treated my life savings like your personal bank account, and when I discovered it, you got violent. I want you to know," I concluded, "that pressing charges wasn't about revenge. It was about reclaiming my peace, about refusing to accept abuse, about holding you accountable for 45 years of control and the final act of violence." "You thought that smile meant you'd won," I finished. "But you lost. You lost your freedom. You lost your wife. You lost everything, and I reclaimed my peace." I sat down, tears streaming down my face, but feeling lighter than I had in decades. Judge Walsh took a long moment before speaking. "Mr. Harper, I've presided over many domestic violence cases," Judge Walsh began. "But this case is particularly disturbing because of the duration of the abuse and your complete lack of remorse. For 45 years, you controlled, manipulated, and financially exploited your wife," Judge Walsh continued. "And when she finally asserted her independence, you responded with violence. The smile Mrs. Harper described, the satisfaction you felt after hitting her, demonstrates a disturbing mindset. On the assault charge, I'm sentencing you to 18 months in state prison," Judge Walsh announced. "On the identity theft and fraud charges, I'm sentencing you to 3 years in state prison to run consecutively. Total sentence, 4.5 years. 4.5 years. Raymond would be 74 or 75 when he was released." "Additionally," Judge Walsh said, "you're ordered to pay full restitution to Mrs. Harper for the $80,000 you stole, plus damages for the harm to her credit. You're also responsible for all legal fees associated with this case." "Do you have anything to say, Mr. Harper?" Judge Walsh asked. Raymond looked at me, his face a mixture of rage and desperation. "I hope you're happy," Raymond said bitterly. "You've destroyed my life." "No," I said quietly. "You destroyed your own life when you chose control over love, violence over respect, and theft over honesty." Raymond was led away to begin his sentence. And I walked out of that courtroom a free woman. While Raymond was in prison, I finalized our divorce. With Raymond unable to contest, he was in prison and couldn't afford a lawyer. The divorce went through quickly. I was awarded the house. The judge ruled that since Raymond had stolen from me and committed identity theft, I was entitled to full ownership of our marital property as partial restitution. I was also awarded Raymond's portion of his retirement account. What was left of it after he'd spent so much on whatever he'd been spending money on gambling, it turned out, which explained why he'd needed to steal from me. The judge dissolved our marriage officially. After 45 years, I was no longer Mrs. Raymond Harper. I was just Ivy, free, independent, at peace. 6 months after Raymond went to prison, I sat in my peaceful living room reflecting on how much had changed. My bruises had healed, my lip had healed, even the emotional wounds were beginning to heal. I'd sold our house, too many bad memories, and bought a small condo that was entirely mine, decorated how I wanted, organized how I liked. I'd reconnected with old friends, joined not just my book club but also a painting class and a gardening club. I'd started therapy to work through 45 years of abuse and control. My therapist, Dr. Opal Stevens, helped me understand that what I'd experienced wasn't normal marriage difficulties. It was systematic abuse. You were in an abusive relationship for 4.5 decades, Dr. Stevens told me. The fact that you finally stood up for yourself shows incredible strength. I don't feel strong, I admitted. I feel like I should have left years ago. Abuse victims often blame themselves, Dr. Stevens said. But Ivy, you left when you were ready. And more importantly, you're safe now. You reclaimed your peace. Reclaimed my peace. That phrase resonated with me. Because that's exactly what I'd done. After 45 years of living in fear, walking on eggshells, accepting control, I'd finally reclaimed my peace. 1 year after Raymond went to prison, I received a letter from him. I almost didn't open it, but curiosity got the better of me. Dear Ivy, I'm writing from prison. I've been here for a year now, with 3.5 years left to go. I'm not writing to ask for forgiveness. I know I don't deserve it. I'm writing because my counselor here says I need to take accountability for my actions. You were right about everything. I was controlling. I was abusive. I stole from you. And when you finally stood up to me, I got violent. The counselor made me look at my behavior patterns, not just with you, but throughout my life. How I always needed to be in control. How I saw your independence as a threat. How I justified stealing from you because I felt entitled to everything you had. That smile you mentioned, the one after I hit you, I've thought about that a lot. You said it showed I had no remorse. You were right. In that moment, I felt satisfied, like I'd finally put you in your place. I'm ashamed of that now, not because I got caught, but because I'm finally seeing what I did to you for 45 years. You gave me everything. Your youth, your career, your independence, your money, and I took it all and demanded more. I'm sorry, Ivy. Not sorry enough to undo the damage. Not sorry enough to give you back 45 years. But sorry enough to finally admit the truth. I was an abusive husband who destroyed a good woman's life. Thank you for finally standing up to me. Thank you for pressing charges. Thank you for refusing to accept my abuse anymore. You reclaimed your peace. And in doing so, you forced me to finally face what I'd become. I don't expect a response. I just wanted you to know that your courage changed both our lives. Yours for the better. Mine, well, I'm in prison. But maybe being here will finally make me a better person. Respectfully, Raymond. I read the letter 3 times. Was it genuine? I didn't know, maybe not. But it didn't matter. Because my peace didn't depend on Raymond's remorse or rehabilitation. My peace came from within, from knowing I'd finally stood up for myself, from refusing to accept abuse, from reclaiming my life. I filed the letter away and went on with my day. Because Raymond's journey was his own, my journey was mine. And mine had led to peace. Before I continue, kindly subscribe now, smash that like button, and turn on NOTFICTONS. Drop a comment. Do you think Raymond's letter is genuine? Would you have responded? Where are you watching from? 3 years after Raymond hit me and walked away smiling, I sat in my sunny condo sipping morning coffee and feeling something I hadn't felt in over 4 decades. Complete and utter peace. Raymond had been in prison for 3 years now, with 18 months left on his sentence. In those 3 years, I'd transformed from a woman who'd spent 45 years accepting control and abuse into someone I barely recognized, in the best possible way. I was 70 years old now, and for the first time in my adult life, I was truly free. The first year after Raymond went to prison was the hardest, but also the most liberating. I had to rebuild my entire life. My credit was destroyed from the fraud Raymond had committed. My finances were a mess. My sense of self was shattered after decades of being told I was wrong, difficult, ungrateful. But I had help. My therapist, Dr. Opal Stevens, helped me understand the depth of the abuse I'd endured. Ivy, what you experienced is called coercive control, Dr. Stevens explained during one session. Raymond didn't just hit you once. He abused you for 45 years through isolation, financial control, and psychological manipulation. I should have seen it, I said. Abuse victims rarely see it while they're in it, Dr. Stevens said gently. The control happens so gradually that it becomes your normal. You adjusted to survive. But I stayed for 45 years, I said, the guilt heavy. You left when you were ready, Dr. Stevens countered. And more importantly, you left. Many women never do. You should be proud of your courage. Courage? I'd never thought of myself as courageous, but maybe I was. Through therapy, I learned to recognize the patterns of abuse I'd normalized. Raymond controlling where I went and who I saw. Raymond managing all finances and keeping me in the dark. Raymond punishing me with silence when I disagreed. Raymond making me feel guilty for having opinions or desires. Raymond stealing from me and justifying it as his right. Raymond hitting me when he finally lost control. All of it was abuse, all of it was wrong, and none of it was my fault. With Minnie's help, I spent the first year rebuilding my financial life. We filed disputes on all the fraudulent accounts Raymond had opened. Most were removed from my credit report once I provided proof of identity theft and Raymond's conviction. My credit score slowly climbed back up, from 520 to 680 over the course of a year. The court had ordered Raymond to pay $80,000 in restitution, but he obviously couldn't pay from prison. So the restitution would come from his retirement account and any assets he had. I was awarded the house in the divorce. I sold it for $320,000 and used the money to pay off the fraudulent home equity loan Raymond had taken, $50,000. Pay off the credit card debt, $30,000. Buy my small condo outright, $180,000. Put the remaining $60,000 into savings. For the first time in my life, I own my home free and clear. No mortgage, no debt, just me and my peaceful space. I also had my retirement account, what was left of it after Raymond's theft. Combined with Social Security, I had enough to live modestly but comfortably. You're financially independent now, Minnie told me. That's a powerful position to be in. She was right. Financial independence felt incredible. The second year after Raymond went to prison was about rediscovering who I was beyond being, Raymond's wife. I joined not just my book club, but 3 other clubs. A painting class at the community center where I discovered I had genuine talent. My watercolors of local landscapes were actually quite good. A gardening club where I learned to grow vegetables and flowers. I had a small balcony garden at my condo that brought me immense joy. A women's hiking group that met every Saturday morning. At 70, I was one of the older members, but I kept up just fine. I reconnected with old friends I'd lost touch with over the years. Women Raymond had either disliked or who I'd drifted away from because I had no energy for friendships while managing Raymond's demands. My friend Letty from my old neighborhood was particularly supportive. "Ivy, you look 10 years younger," Letty observed when we met for lunch, "and happier than I've ever seen you." "I feel happier," I admitted. "It's like I've been released from prison myself." "That's exactly what it is," Letty agreed. "You were imprisoned in that marriage, now you're free." I also started traveling, something Raymond had always controlled, always limited to places he wanted to go. I took a solo trip to Colorado to visit mountains I'd always wanted to see. I joined a group tour to Italy to see the art I'd studied in books. I spent a week in Charleston, South Carolina, just wandering historic streets and eating good food. Every trip, every new experience, every moment of doing exactly what I wanted felt like reclaiming another piece of myself. About 2 years after my divorce, my friend from book club asked a question that surprised me. "Have you thought about dadding?" Mamie asked over coffee. "Dadding?" I repeated, shocked. "I'm 70 years old, and I just got out of a 45-year abusive marriage. The last thing I want is another relationship." "Not a relationship necessarily," Mamie clarified, "but companionship, someone to go to dinner with, see a movie with. You're allowed to have male friends, Ivy." "I don't know," I said hesitantly. "There's a gentleman in our hiking group who's asked about you," Mamie said. "Luther. He's a widower, 72, very kind. He's not looking for marriage. His wife died 3 years ago and he's still processing that. But he enjoys good conversation and company." "I don't think I'm ready," I said. "That's fine," Mamie said. "But don't close yourself off to possibilities just because Raymond was terrible. Not all men are like him." I thought about that conversation for weeks. Was I ready to even consider male companionship after 45 years of abuse? Eventually, I decided to try, just friendship, nothing more. Luther and I started having coffee after hiking group meetings. He was gentle, respectful, interesting. He'd been a high school history teacher before retiring. He loved books and art. He never pressured me, never demanded my time, never tried to control where I went or what I did. "I like you, Ivy," Luther told me after about 3 months of friendship. "I enjoy your company, but I want you to know I have no agenda here. If all we ever are is friends who hike and have coffee, that's wonderful. If it becomes more someday, that's wonderful too. But you set the pace, always." That statement, "you set the pace," was something Raymond would never have said. Raymond had controlled every aspect of our relationship from day one. With Luther, I had complete freedom, and that freedom felt incredible. We remained friends, just friends. Maybe someday it would be more, maybe not. But for now, having a kind male friend who respected my boundaries was healing in ways I hadn't expected. Over the 3 years Raymond was in prison, he wrote me approximately 20 letters. I read every one, not because I wanted to reconcile, but because I wanted to track whether his remorse was genuine or manipulative. The letters progressed through predictable stages. Months 1-6, blame and manipulation. "Ivy, you're destroying my life. I made one mistake and you're punishing me forever. This is cruel. The other inmates here are real criminals. I don't belong here. I'm not a bad person. You know that. If you would just drop the charges, we could work this out. Don't you miss me? Don't you miss our life together?" These letters were easy to ignore. They showed Raymond still didn't understand what he'd done wrong. Month 6-12, dawning awareness. "The counselor here keeps asking me why I felt entitled to control you. I don't have a good answer. I've been thinking about how I isolated you from friends. I told myself I was protecting you, but really, I was making sure you had no one but me. You said I smiled after hitting you. I've thought about that a lot. Why did I smile? I think I felt powerful, like I'd won. That's disgusting to admit." These letters showed some self-awareness beginning to develop. Months 12-24, genuine remorse. I'm reading a book about domestic violence. The chapter on financial abuse described exactly what I did to you. I stole from you. I destroyed your credit. I treated your life savings like it was mine to take. I'm so sorry. The counselor asked me to write down every controlling thing I did during our marriage. The list was 5 pages long. 5 pages, Ivy. I controlled you for 45 years. I understand now why you won't respond to my letters. I don't deserve responses. I don't deserve forgiveness. I just want you to know I finally see what I did. These letters seemed more genuine, but I still didn't respond. Months 2436. Acceptance. I'm not writing to ask for anything anymore. I'm writing because documenting my realization is part of my therapy. You don't have to read these. You don't owe me anything. I turned 73 yesterday. I'll be 74 when I get out. I've wasted my entire adult life being a controlling, abusive man. I can't get those years back, but I can at least acknowledge the truth. Thank you, Ivy, for finally standing up to me, for refusing to accept my abuse, for pressing charges even though it was hard. You saved yourself, and in a way, you saved me too by forcing me to face what I'd become. The most recent letters showed what seemed like genuine transformation. But I'd learned from Dr. Stevens, transformation takes years to prove, not months. I never responded to any of Raymond's letters, not because I was cruel, but because I owed him nothing. My healing didn't require accepting his apologies or acknowledging his growth. My peace existed independently of Raymond's journey. 2.5 years into Raymond's sentence, I received a notification that he was eligible for parole. He's served the minimum time for good behavior, Minnie explained. The parole board will decide if he's released early or serves his full sentence. Do I have to attend the hearing? I asked. No. Minnie said, but you can submit a victim impact statement. You can tell the board whether you think he should be released. I thought about it for a week. Did I think Raymond should be released early? Did I care? Finally, I wrote a statement to the parole board. To the parole board. My name is Ivy Harper. I am the victim of Raymond Harper's crimes, domestic violence assault, identity theft, and fraud. Mr. Harper has written me many letters during his incarceration. The letters show a progression from blame to self-awareness to what appears to be genuine remorse. I cannot speak to whether his transformation is real or permanent. Only time will tell. However, I can speak to my own recovery. In the 3 years since Mr. Harper has been in prison, I have rebuilt my life completely. I am financially stable. I am emotionally healthy. I am safe. If the parole board chooses to release Mr. Harper early, that is your decision to make based on his behavior in prison and your assessment of his rehabilitation. But I want to make one thing clear. Whether Mr. Harper is in prison or free, my peace is secure. My safety is protected by a permanent restraining order. My life is my own. His presence or absence doesn't affect me anymore because I have reclaimed my peace. Do what you think is right. I trust the system to make an appropriate decision. Respectfully, Ivy Harper. 2 weeks later, I learned the parole board had denied Raymond's early release. He would serve his full 4.5-year sentence. I felt neither satisfaction nor disappointment at the news, just indifference. Raymond's imprisonment, or freedom, no longer affected my emotional state. I was truly free. When Raymond was finally released from prison after serving his full sentence, I was 71 years old. I'd known the release date was coming. The prison system had notified me as required by law. But I felt no anxiety, no fear, just a mild curiosity about what Raymond would do with his freedom. The permanent restraining order was still in effect. Raymond was prohibited from coming within 500 feet of me, contacting me in any way, or attempting to approach my home. If he violated the order, he'd go right back to prison. 2 weeks after Raymond's release, Minnie called me. Ivy, I wanted to let you know. Raymond's lawyer contacted me, Minnie said. About what? I asked. Raymond wants to send you a letter, Minnie explained. Not directly, that would violate the restraining order, but through lawyers, asking if you'd be willing to meet with him one time. Why? I asked. He says he wants to apologize in person, Minnie said. His letter, which I have here, says he's not asking for reconciliation or forgiveness. He just wants to look you in the eye and apologize for 45 years of abuse. What do you think? I asked. That's entirely up to you, Minnie said. You don't owe him anything. If you never want to see him again, that's completely valid. I thought about it. Did I want to see Raymond? Did I want to hear his apology? After a week of consideration, I decided, yes, but on my terms. Tell his lawyer I'll meet with Raymond, I told Minnie, but in a public place, with you present, for 30 minutes maximum, and if at any point I want to leave, we leave immediately. Done, Minnie said. 2 weeks later, I sat in a conference room at Minnie's law office waiting for Raymond to arrive. I'd chosen this location because it was neutral, professional, and safe. Minnie sat beside me. Her associate was in the next room in case anything went wrong. Raymond walked in at exactly 2 p.m., accompanied by his lawyer. I barely recognized him. He looked old. Prison had aged him significantly. He was thinner, grayer, moved more slowly. He looked every bit of his 74 years. But what struck me most was his demeanor. The arrogance was gone. The controlling posture was gone. He looked humble, almost broken. Thank you for agreeing to meet with me, Raymond said quietly, sitting down across from me. I didn't respond. I just waited. I wanted to apologize to you in person, Raymond began, for everything. For 45 years of controlling, manipulating, and abusing you, for stealing from you, for hitting you, for that smile. That smile haunts me, Raymond continued. You were right, it showed I felt satisfied, powerful, like I'd finally put you in your place. I'm ashamed of that. I'm ashamed of the man I was. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Because you deserve to hear it, Raymond said simply. Not a letter, not through lawyers, face to face. You deserve to hear me say I was wrong about everything. You were a good wife, a faithful wife, a devoted wife, and I treated you terribly. Yes, you did, I agreed. I don't expect forgiveness, Raymond said. I know I don't deserve it. I just wanted you to know that I finally understand what I did. The counseling in prison, the therapy, the time to reflect, it all helped me see the truth. What truth? I asked. That I was an abuser, Raymond said. Not just someone who made mistakes, an abuser. For 45 years, I controlled, manipulated, and exploited you. And when you finally stood up to me, I got violent. Why did you do it? I asked. Why did you need to control me? Because I was insecure, Raymond admitted. I needed to feel powerful because I felt weak inside. Controlling you made me feel strong. It's pathetic, but it's the truth. We sat in silence for a moment. What do you want from me, Raymond? I asked. Nothing, Raymond said. I don't want reconciliation. I don't want friendship. I don't even want forgiveness. I just wanted to look you in the eye and say I'm sorry, and to tell you that you were right to press charges. You were right to divorce me. You were right to reclaim your life. I know I was right, I said simply. I'm glad you know that, Raymond said. Because you deserve to be happy, Ivy. You deserve peace, something I never gave you. I have peace now, I said. Complete peace, for the first time in 45 years. Good, Raymond said, and I could see tears forming in his eyes. That's what you deserve. The meeting lasted 20 minutes, not the full 30 I'd allowed. Because there was nothing more to say. Raymond had apologized. I'd heard him, and now we could both move on with our separate lives. As Raymond was leaving, he paused at the door. Ivy, one more thing, Raymond said. I know you're seeing someone, Luther from your hiking group. I tensed. How did he know that? I'm not stalking you, Raymond said quickly, seeing my concern. Mutual acquaintances talk. I just wanted you to know I'm glad you found someone who treats you well. You deserve that. And then he left. I sat there for a moment, processing. How do you feel? Minnie asked. Free, I said, completely free. 4 years after Raymond hit me and walked away smiling, I sat in my sunny condo reflecting on how far I'd come. Raymond was out of prison, living in a different city, working part-time at an auto shop to pay his restitution. We had no contact except for the monthly restitution checks that came through the court system. He was rebuilding his life. I'd rebuilt mine. And our paths would never cross again. My relationship with Luther had deepened. We weren't married, neither of us wanted that, but we were committed companions. He had his home, I had mine, but we spent several days a week together hiking, cooking, traveling, enjoying life. "You know what I love about you," Luther told me one day as we hiked through a nature preserve. "What?" I asked. "You're complete on your own," Luther said. "You don't need me, you choose me. There's a difference." He was right. I didn't need Luther. I chose him, every day, because he added joy to my life without demanding I sacrifice anything. That was what healthy relationships looked like. Choice, not obligation. Joy, not control. Respect, not domination. I'd also become an advocate for domestic violence survivors. I volunteered at a women's shelter, sharing my story with other women who were still in abusive relationships. If a 70-year-old woman can leave a 45-year marriage and rebuild her life, you can too, I told them. It's never too late to reclaim your peace. Some women listened. Some weren't ready, but I planted seeds. That's all I could do. My painting had become quite good. I'd actually sold several pieces at a local art fair. The money went to the domestic violence shelter. My garden flourished. My friendships deepened. My life expanded in ways I'd never imagined. Every morning, I woke up in my sunny condo, made coffee just the way I liked it, and sat on my balcony watching the sunrise. And every morning, I felt grateful. Grateful that I'd finally found the courage to stand up to Raymond. Grateful that I'd pressed charges instead of accepting his abuse. Grateful that I'd reclaimed my peace. That smile, the satisfied smile Raymond had given me after hitting me, had been meant to intimidate me into silence. But instead, it had awakened me. It had shown me the truth of what my marriage was, 45 years of abuse disguised as love. And it had given me the courage to walk into court the very next day and begin the process of reclaiming my life. My husband hit me and walked away smiling. The next day, I walked into court and reclaimed my peace. And 4 years later, that peace was complete, unshakable, and entirely mine. What an incredible journey. Raymond served his full 4.5 years in prison. Ivy rebuilt her entire life, sold the house, bought a condo debt-free, rebuilt her credit from 520 to 680. She reconnected with friends, joined 4 clubs, book club, painting, gardening, hiking. Traveled solo to Colorado, Italy, Charleston. She even started dating Luther, a kind widower who says, "You set the pace always." Raymond wrote 20 letters from prison showing progression from blame to genuine remorse. After release, he asked to meet. Ivy agreed on her TRMS. He apologized in person. "I was an abuser for 45 years. You were right to press charges." Ivy said, "I know I was right. I have complete peace now." 4 years later, Ivy is thriving, advocating for DV survivors, selling paintings, living with freedom. Raymond pays monthly restitution from another city. They'll never cross paths again. This story proves that it's never too late to leave abuse. One act of violence can wake you up. Pressing charges is an act of self-love. Peace comes from within, not from abusers' apologies. You can rebuild your entire life at 67, 70, any age. Real love respects boundaries, never demands control. If this story inspired you, please subscribe to this channel for more powerful stories. Smash that like button. Turn on notifications for new content. Drop a comment. What part of Ivy's transformation inspired you most? Do you believe Raymond's change was real? Where are you watching from? United States, Canada, United Kingdom, Jamaica, South Africa, Australia, Trinidad, India, Philippines? Let me know. Remember, if someone hits you even once, that's assault. That's a crime. You don't have to forgive. You don't have to give second chances. You can press charges. You can leave. You can rebuild. It's never too late to reclaim your peace. Ivy's husband hit her and walked away smiling. The next day, she walked into court with evidence and a lawyer. 4 years later, she has complete peace while he pays restitution from another city. May this story inspire you to never accept abuse and to always reclaim your peace. Thank you for following this powerful journey from violence to freedom, from control to independence, from abuse to complete peace. Until the next story, stay strong, protect yourself, and remember that you deserve peace always.